English Martyrs, we know that England is blessed with the highest number of the martyrs in Europe. And we know that Father Tom, he has some personal experience associated with today's feast. Father, could you just share it with us?
Yeah, certainly, yes. I had the privilege way back in, when was it? 1987, November 87, going on the national pilgrimage for the 85 martyrs who were beatified, English and Welsh martyrs. And the pilgrimage was led by Cardinal Hume. There are quite a number of bishops. From our own diocese, I don't know, almost about 100. I'm not sure how many went. On the negative side, the weather could not have been worse. It rained almost constantly, 4 or 5 days there. But there certainly were high points. And the biggest high point would have been the beatification in St. Peter's with Pope John Paul, St. John Paul. And I was very privileged that I was able to help with communion, which meant I was sort of very close to the altar and I could observe the Holy Father. And it's the whole thing was very inspiring, really. And in his homily, he emphasised especially to note the joy experienced by the martyrs from all different backgrounds, but of being chosen. They felt what a privilege to be chosen to shed their blood for Christ, for the Church, and that came over very forcefully. And then, yes.
How many times did you meet the Pope?
In total, or on that pilgrimage? Well, I suppose later on, I think the following day, that there was the pilgrimage, the sort of, what do they call it, the general audience, I think. But that was, otherwise we didn't meet him at all, really. Because in the evening, the Sun Vespers and Benediction was led by Cardinal Hume. That was much more a sort of family occasion. One of the interesting things Cardinal Hume said, emphasising that it's so nice that descendants of some of the martyrs were present, that he did also emphasise, you'll notice not a single woman was actually martyred out of the 85. He said the reason for that actually is because it was considered sort of not the right thing to do, to execute women. So they ended their days usually in prison, which was quite an interesting point, really. But again, there was a terrific atmosphere for the evening celebration, but not as solemn or grand, much more homely. And Cardinal Hume really emphasised that we are a family and that the martyrs would be looking down on us and everything. So we had those two sort of wonderful events, which were definitely the high point.
Do you remember anything in particular about the Pope, like how when he celebrated his Mass?
Yes,
did you...
definitely, yeah. Yes. It was, I felt rather, it just occurred to me now, a bit out of one's depth. I felt there was a sort of mystery. He was celebrating something very, very profound and much deeper. And he was absorbed in what he was doing when he was at the altar. And also that he felt he was carrying the weight of his responsibility and the whole world, because there was sorrow there, and in his deep sort of piercing eyes you could see there was deep sorrow, but also a sense of sort of vision, sort of looking beyond. And whenever he looked up occasionally, as he did at the congregation, he seemed to be looking beyond, into the distance. That was very, very powerful, really. But at the same time, there was quite a sort of light touch in his words as well. The other thing he began his homily by quoting from St. Thomas More, in saying that he died the king's good servant, but God's first. And so you felt he really understood where we were coming from and everything. And then he kept referring to the martyrs and how much we could learn from them. And it was very, he was very much talking to us in the present, as well as having this wider sort of vision. But that made certainly a deep impression.
John Paul II, he was known for his desire to to make the point that there are so many saints, and there were so many saints among us. And do you think that there's anything special about the English martyrs? Like, obviously there are, you know, so many saints from other parts of the world. Whereas, what about this? Maybe there's something specific about the martyrdom of the English saints.
I think one of the interesting things about the martyrs at the time of the Reformation was you had this complete cross-section. Ages, status, some were from noble backgrounds, some were very poor, men and women, those who were very educated, those with very little education. You had a complete cross-section. So, you know, we could all relate to them in a way, you know. We weren't to feel that it's not for us. So we did feel very much we were being challenged. And the fact that there were descendants of the martyrs present on that occasion sort of brought it all home to us as well. Certainly one came away sort of very inspired and making all kinds of resolutions. One of them I noted was that from now on I would not complain about anything, you know. Anyway, I failed to keep that. But yes, it was a wonderful privilege. And yet I wasn't that keen to go. I remember the time I was not that keen to go. But I'm just so glad I went, you know. And I forgot to mention my parents came as well, which was very good. So I could share it with them.
You mentioned St. Thomas More. Were there any others that sort of you remembered in particular?
Mentioned on that occasion. I don't think, I can't remember the names of those which Cardinal Hugh mentioned, you know, but they were, I think, mainly from the north of England. But St. Thomas More sort of stood out, really. And
so how many of you were there at the beatification at the Mass?
It was the total number from the national pilgrimage was maybe anything up to about 2,000, I think. Maybe not as many as that.
So there was a group from our diocese as well?
So from our own diocese it was 100, possibly 200. Mm-hmm. I think maybe a total of 2,000 is being a bit optimistic. Perhaps there weren't that many. Because I know we were one of the larger numbers. And it was shadowed out. Bishop Gordon Wheeler, retired bishop from Leeds, gave an excellent homily. I remember that. But some of the masses were just our own diocesan masses over at the English College. And at the time we had four of our students were in Rome, and they were very, very hospitable, and they joined us for as much as they could. There were lots of little anecdotes, really, memories.
What is the benefit of going to Rome rather than celebrating that here on the spot?
Yes. I think the main reason for going to Rome, it's the links with the apostles, isn't it? Peter and Paul. And that's why we are strongly encouraged to visit their basilicas, which I was thinking built over there, where they were buried, I think. And so you had St. Peter's, St. Paul's outside the walls, then the other two great basilicas, St. Mary Major's and St. John's Lateran. So during our short pilgrimage, we visited all four. We also did a lot of sightseeing and visited some of the other basilicas as well, and the catechumens. We had a day trip outside Rome. We went to Subiaco, which was again another high point, where St. Benedict had spent 3 years in a cave. This is about the year 500, trying to discern God's will, and after that he founded his order. But he lived in sort of solitude there, and a friend used to lower his food down a rope, and he was on the face of this very sheer sort of side of the mountain, where there's a small monastery but built over the cave. And we were then again torrential rain, and when we arrived there'd been a power cut, so everything was in candlelight. It was terrific. It was a great atmosphere. But to look out, you could see that's exactly the same view that St. Benedict would have had just across the valley, a very steep valley. And he was there for 3 years in all the different seasons of the year, and at times he must have felt fairly desperate, you know. but a time of discernment. So that was another important message I think we took from the pilgrimage, was the value of solitude, and we all need that in order to discern what God is asking us to do. So that was definitely another high point of the pilgrimage.
Do you think that there's any message we should proclaim, we should give to the world nowadays regarding the today's feast, the martyrs, English martyrs?
I think, yes. I'd say we need to be very, very thankful for the gift of our faith, when so many do not have any faith at all, that we need to really appreciate this wonderful gift we have been given, and just how important it is, and to challenge ourselves, what kind of witness do I give today, and do I have enough courage? And it's not as if we're left on our own. That the Lord is with us. He's there to support us, and that's why they were able to go, I think, rejoicing to their executions and things. Is because the martyrs were very aware that the Lord was with them. Not only they had heaven to look forward to, but He hadn't deserted them. He was present, and the Holy Spirit was guiding them and helping them. So I think, yes, the message really is to thank God for our faith, and to be much more upfront about our faith. And also the other element I've not touched on would be that unity, Christian unity, which did come out quite strongly during the pilgrimage. And we must be looking for opportunities more and more to share our faith with fellow Christians and share the mission of the Church, the mission of Christ.
Thank you very much, Father Tom.
Right.
And I'd like to invite you also to share your stories. Maybe there's some story of your devotion to one of the saints. Maybe there's some other recollection of your visit to Rome, or maybe to some shrines. You are most welcome to share that with us. You can do that by recording that with your mobile, as easy as that, with the landscape mode, and then you can send it over to us, to the office, or to the parish website, and then we can see, maybe it will inspire others also to remember and develop some devotion, some relationship with the saints. Thank you very much. God bless. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.